The sky was too quiet that night. Jace Rowland had been driving for hours through the wastelands of planet Veltrax 9. His old rover hummed over the cracked road, its lights slicing through the thick purple mist. This was not the kind of place anyone would wander, especially not alone. He checked the nav screen again, still no signs of life for hundreds of kilometers. Just barren desert, scattered wrecks, and whispers of the war that had ended 2 years ago. He had no reason to be here. But after a bad trade at a frontier market and some trouble with off-world smugglers, Jace needed to disappear. Veltrax 9 was the perfect hiding spot, or so he thought as he rounded a wide bend near the edge of an old crater. His headlights caught movement. He slowed down quickly, eyes narrowing. There, on the side of the road, were 2 figures. Not just figures, 2 girls. They stood close together, thin arms hugging themselves against the cold. Their skin shimmered faintly under the lights, like polished silver with hints of blue. Long hair fell down their backs, glowing softly in the dark like living fiber-optics. Twins.jace single quotes. S hand hovered near the plasma pistol resting beside his seat. He had heard rumors of alien refugees pretending to be harmless, only to strike once you let your guard down. But these 2 didn't look dangerous. They looked lost. He stopped the rover, engine rumbling low. The girls didn't move, just watched him, quiet, still, strange. Jace opened his door, standing slowly. "You 2 all right?" he called. The taller of the twins stepped forward, her voice soft but clear. "Please, we need help." Her eyes caught his, deep violet. Not glowing like some aliens, just intense. Too intense. He didn't know why, but he stepped closer. "What are you doing out here?" "There's nothing for miles." "We were left behind," the other one said, barely above a whisper. "Our transport it never came back." Jace looked around again, scanning the darkness. No ships, no camps, no smoke trails, nothing. He didn't like this, not one bit. Still, something about their voices. They didn't sound like liars. "Where were you headed?" The twins looked at each other for a second, then one said, "Anywhere safer than here." That wasn't much of an answer. He scratched his chin. "All right, I'll give you a ride. But if you try anything funny, we won't," the first twin said. "We promise." They climbed into the rover, sitting silently in the back. Jace kept checking the rearview screen. They didn't talk, didn't fidget. Just sat close together like they were made from the same thoughts. And maybe they were. He drove in silence for 20 minutes. Then finally asked, "What species are you 2 anyway?" The taller twin looked up. "We're part of the Zyroi kin," Jace blinked. That name sent a chill down his spine. The Zyroi weren't just any aliens. They were biosculpted during the war, engineered by the Council to do things normal soldiers couldn't. Their kind vanished after the peace treaty. Most believe they'd been wiped out. He turned in his seat slightly. "You're Zyroi? That's rare." "We know," she said. "We didn't ask to be made. We were born in a lab, but we escaped." "Escaped from who?" "From the ones who kept us after the war. We were told we were free. But they lied." Jace's grip tightened on the wheel. This was getting complicated. Helping fugitives was dangerous enough. Helping engineered fugitives, especially those once used in war, was suicide. But again, they didn't look like killers. They looked tired, worn, like kids who had been running too long. Suddenly, a sharp beep rang from the dash. Incoming signal. He checked the frequency. "Military grade, encrypted. Unidentified rover. This is Dominion Patrol Unit 47, a cold salty voice said. You are carrying flagged passengers. Pull over immediately." Jace cursed under his breath. He killed the Cums and turned to the twins. "What did you do?" They didn't answer. The younger twin just said, "If they catch us, we'll vanish." Like the others, headlights flared in the rear view. A fast-approaching skimmer. Armed, Jace's heart pounded. He made a decision. He hit the throttle. The rover roared to life, kicking up dust and heat as it tore off the road and into the wild terrain. Behind him, the patrol skimmer gave chase, sirens screaming into the night. "You better be worth this." Jace muttered "Dot," and that's when the taller twin leaned forward, placing her glowing hand on the dashboard. In an instant, the rover's engine changed. The noise deepened, and suddenly the machine surged faster than it ever had before. Jace looked back at her, stunned. "What did you just do?" She gave a tired smile. "We were built to be more than passengers." And for the first time, Jace realized he hadn't just picked up two lost girls. He had picked up something far more dangerous. Something the Dominion wanted buried forever. The rover flew over the dry ground, bouncing hard as it hit the edge of a dried riverbed. The lights of the patrol skimmer followed close behind, flashing like a warning in the dust. Jace clenched his teeth and fought the steering wheel. "What did you do to my engine?" The older twin looked at him, her hand still glowing on the dashboard. "I didn't hurt it. I just helped it. The machine can do more than it was made for." Jace glanced at her again, then back at the road. "You boosted it? How?" "We understand energy flow. It's something we were made for." The rover sped forward like a beast unleashed. Rocks and old metal debris shot past as they entered the broken lands. It wasn't a safe place, but Jace knew the patrol wouldn't follow him far in. Too many hidden traps from the war still buried out here. The skimmer fired a warning shot. A flash of heat passed overhead. "They're serious." Jace muttered. "They want us back," the younger twin whispered. "They think we belong to them." "Why?" "Because we're not just twins," the older one said quietly. "We're the last two." Jace didn't like the way she said that. Like there used to be more. He pushed the rover harder. The patrol was still chasing, but the path ahead twisted into an old war-zone blackened metal spikes, half-melted tanks, and energy scars across the ground. The skimmer suddenly slowed, then stopped. It hovered in place, lights flashing, but made no move to follow. Jace exhaled. "Looks like they're too scared to go farther." "Not scared," the twin said. "They're restricted. These zones still have active warnings. They won't risk the traps." Jace drove deeper into the ruins and finally brought the rover to a stop under an old broken bridge. He killed the engine and stepped out, breathing heavy. He stared at the girls. "You two need to tell me everything." "Right now." The older twin nodded and sat on the edge of the rover. The younger one curled beside her like a shadow. "We were made during the war," she said. "Our kind could heal fast, read energy, link minds, and move light. But we weren't soldiers. We were tools. Used by who? The Dominion. Same ones who chased us. They didn't fight the war with soldiers. They used us instead. And when the war ended, they tried to erase us." Jace looked at them closely. "So how did you survive?" "We were kept in a lab, studied, watched, but we found a way out." Jace crossed his arms. "And now you're running." The younger twin finally spoke. "We just want to live, like normal people. But they think we're dangerous." "Are you?" She looked up at him. "Would I be here, begging a stranger for help if I was?" Jace didn't answer. He paced a few steps. The sky was growing darker now. Stars glowed above like cold sparks in space. He thought about his options. He could leave them here. Let someone else deal with it. Or worse, turn them in for a reward. He was already broke. It would fix his problems. But when he looked at the twins again, barefoot, scared, and silent, he couldn't do it. I know a place, he finally said. Old friend has a hideout in the Echo Cliffs. It's far. And rough. We can make it, said the older twin. You better? Because if you slow me down, we won't. Jace opened the rover's storage bin and tossed them both thermal blankets. You'll need these. Nights out here can freeze bones. They wrapped themselves quickly. Jace climbed back in the rover and started the engine again. It growled low, like it was angry at being pushed so hard. Names? He asked. The older twin looked at him. I'm Yari. She's Luma. He nodded. All right, Yari. Luma. Buckle in. We move at sunrise. The twins curled up together in the back seat, barely talking. Jace leaned back in his chair and stared at the stars for a long while. He didn't know what kind of trouble he'd just driven into. But one thing was clear now. This wasn't just about helping two lost aliens. Something bigger was happening. Something the Dominion didn't want anyone to know. And these twins might be the key dot in the shadows of the broken lands. As the wind howled across the rocks, Jace began to understand. He wasn't rescuing them. They were pulling him into a forgotten war, and someone was going to come for them again soon. The morning light on Veltrax 9 was weak and pale, barely pushing through the thick clouds. The desert wind had calmed, but the silence felt even heavier than the night before. Jace rubbed sleep from his eyes, checked his weapon, and glanced at the back of the rover. The twins were still there, wrapped in the blankets, heads leaning against each other. They looked peaceful. Too peaceful, considering everything. Jace stepped outside, stretched his arms, and walked a few meters away to scan the horizon. No skimmers in sight. No dust trails. Nothing. But he didn't relax. In his experience, trouble didn't always announce itself. Wake up, he called over his shoulder. We move now. The twins stirred slowly. Yari sat up first, then helped. Luma stretched her stiff legs. Jace tossed them protein bars and a bottle of water. Eat. It's a long ride to the Echo Cliffs. We'll need to pass through the Scorch Path. Luma looked up. Scorch Path? That sounds... It's bad, Jace said flatly. But it's the fastest route. No patrols. No drones. They avoid it because of the old mines and heat spikes. But I've done it before, Yari chewed slowly. We trust you. Jace raised an eyebrow. That's dangerous. They drove off. 30 minutes later, the land changed fast. Rocks turned black. Air got hotter. Even the sky turned a strange color, reddish gold, like the world itself was burning slowly from inside as they moved deeper into the path. The rover's heat sensors started beeping. Jace kept one eye on the ground, watching for signs of old war mines. He couldn't afford a mistake here. Luma broke the silence. You said you've done this before. Why? Jace didn't answer for a while. Then said, used to smuggle supplies after the war. Got paid well to take things where no one else would. Supplies? Yari asked. Sometimes weapons. Sometimes people. The twins looked at each other. Luma said quietly, did you ever smuggle someone like us? Jay shook his head. No, nothing like you. I didn't even know your kind still existed. We didn't either, Yari said. Not until we escaped. That's when we found out we were alone. Jace kept driving. You said you were the last. What happened to the others? Yari's voice turned cold. They were taken one by one. Disappeared. The ones who didn't obey were erased. Minds wiped. Bodies used for testing, Luma whispered. We were always next. That's why we ran. Suddenly the rover jolted hard. A loud thud slammed underneath. Hold on. Jace shouted. The wheels slid, kicking up clouds of ash and sand. A burst of smoke rose from the back. The rover tilted, then steadied. Alarms flashed on the dashboard. Something hit us, Yari said. No, Jace grunted. We hit a buried tripwire. Might have been inactive. Might not be. Don't move. He jumped out and crawled under the rover, flashlight in hand. After a tense minute, he found a rusted cable had snapped, but the explosive rig it connected to hadn't gone off. Some old trap, half broken with age. He sighed and backed out. We're lucky. Could have blown the whole rover. Yari slid out of the vehicle. Let me help fix it. Jace raised an eyebrow. You know how? She placed a hand on the damaged pipe under the rover. Her fingers glowed again. This time brighter. The metal shifted, hissed, and then sealed itself. Jace watched in disbelief. You can fix machines just by touching them? Yari stood up. Only certain ones. We were made to interface with tech, heal it, improve it, or shut it down. Jace's mind turned quickly. That kind of ability was dangerous. If the Dominion wanted them back so badly, it meant these girls could do more than just survive. They could fight, and maybe win. They continued the journey through the rest of the scorch path. The heat grew worse, but the rover held. Yari kept her hand on the dashboard, whispering to it like it could hear her. Luma leaned out the window, staring into the wildlands with quiet fear in her eyes. Hours passed before they reached a high ridge. The view stretched far beyond a deep valley full of strange rock towers and green mist. At the far end, barely visible, was a metal door built into the cliffside. The Echo Cliffs, Jay said. He parked and grabbed his rifle. Stay here. But as he stepped forward, something moved on the ridge. A shimmer of light. Then another. Dozens. Jace raised the scope. Damn it. What is it? Yari asked. He looked at her grimly. They're already here. The Dominion had found them, and they were not alone. Jace dropped behind a jagged rock and peered through the rifle scope again. The shimmer he had seen wasn't a trick of light. Dominion cloakers. A full squad, at least 6 soldiers. Maybe more were positioned all around the Echo Cliffs. They moved fast, he whispered. Too fast. The twins crouched beside him, eyes wide. Yari frowned. They tracked us? No signal went out from the rover, Jay said. I checked. Then how? Luma looked down at her arms, confused. Maybe we're still marked. Maybe they put something in us back at the lab. Yari's voice dropped. No, we checked. We removed everything. We were clean. Then they're guessing, Jace muttered. Or they knew where you'd run. He looked down at the metal door and the cliff face. That was the hideout, his old friend Bren's safe house. But if Dominion units were already guarding the entrance, then either Bren had betrayed him, or worse, he was already dead. Jace glanced at the girls. We can't go straight through them. They'll spot us, even with a cloak. We could confuse their gear, Yari said. Send false readings. Buy some time. Jace looked surprised. You can do that too? Luma nodded. Together, yes, if we link our energy. That'll paint a target on you. It already is, Yari said softly. Let us do this. Jace watched as the twins stood slowly and held hands. They closed their eyes. A soft light pulsed between their palms, spreading across their arms. In seconds, the light expanded, invisible to the human eye, but Jace felt it. Like pressure in the air had shifted. Suddenly, the Dominion cloakers started moving. Jace saw one of them raise a scanner and spin in place, confused. Another shouted something through a comm. They've lost their lock, Jace said, smiling. You did it. We don't have long, Yari said, her voice strained. We can hold this only for a few minutes. Jace nodded and pulled them back behind the rocks. Follow me. Quiet and fast. They moved downhill through a path covered in burnt shrubs and old rusted metal. Jace led them toward a back entrance he remembered. an emergency tunnel near a collapsed ravine. As they reached it, he dropped to his knees and yanked up a hatch hidden under debris. "Inside," he whispered. They crawled through the tunnel in near darkness. The air smelled of dust and decay. Finally, they reached a small chamber lit by a flickering wall panel. The hatch on the far side opened into the hideout. Jace crept forward, rifle raised. The inside was quiet. Too quiet. He stepped into the main room, a small bunker with power cells, rations, and a comm station. No signs of struggle. No blood, but also no Bren. Jace cursed under his breath. "He's not here. He left?" Luma asked. "Maybe. Or maybe they got him first." Yari sat down and breathed hard. "We can't keep running like this." Jace locked the entrance and checked the motion sensors. "Then don't. We make a stand here. If they're coming, they'll have to get through me first." Luma looked around the room. "This place is strong. Sealed walls. Reinforced doors. Yeah, Bren used it when he smuggled intel during the war. It can hold for a while. Not forever." Yari stood. "We'll help defend." Jace looked at her. "You sure? You've been running all this time. We're done running." Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed from the wall panel. "Movement," Jace said. "They found us." He aimed the rifle toward the door. "How many?" "4. "Signatures," the panel said in a robotic voice. "Maybe more behind." Yari walked to the panel, placed her hand on it. "I can slow them again." "No," Jace said. "They'll expect that trick now. I've got something better." He opened a hidden drawer beneath the floor and pulled out a small black box. "What's that?" Luma asked. "Old Dominion tech. Portable burst jammer. I took it years ago." "You stole from the Dominion?" Yari asked, surprised. "I was young and angry. Figured they owed me." He activated the jammer. A low hum filled the bunker. Outside, the approaching soldiers would suddenly lose all comms, scanners, and auto-aim systems. "Now," Jay said, "we turn their advantage into chaos." Yari smiled. "We fight together." Luma looked scared, but stood tall beside her sister. Footsteps echoed outside, then pounding on the door. Jace readied his weapon. The twins placed their hands on the walls, charging the metal with energy. Jace's voice was calm but fierce. "They want to erase you?" He stared at the sealed door. "Let them try." The steel door shuddered as another loud boom echoed through the bunker. The Dominion soldiers had brought a breaching tool. It wouldn't take long now. Jace stood still, finger on the trigger, eyes locked on the entry point. Yari and Luma kept their hands on the walls, whispering to each other in a strange musical language. The metal around the door began to glow faintly, as if alive. "Buy me as much time as you can," Jace said. "The second they come through, we hit hard." Yari nodded, her face calm. "We are ready." A hiss sounded from the door pressure releasing. The lock mechanism cracked. Then, in a burst of light and sparks, the door blew open. 4 armored Dominion soldiers rushed in, weapons raised. Jace fired first. His plasma round struck the lead soldier's helmet, cracking the visor. The man staggered, then dropped. The second shot caught the next one in the shoulder, spinning him around. The remaining 2 fired back. Bright bolts tore across the room, but just before one bolt hit Jace, the air around him shimmered and the blast vanished. Yari had thrown up a shield of light. Her body trembled from the effort, but she held strong. Jace dove left and rolled. "Behind cover, that's new." "We didn't show everything yet," she replied, eyes glowing brighter now. Luma stepped forward, her hands out. She closed her eyes and suddenly the Dominion soldier's rifle froze. It shook in his grip, then exploded into sparks. The soldier screamed and collapsed. The last attacker turned to run, but Jace was faster. One clean shot to the back dropped him before he reached the door. Silence returned. Only the sound of Jace's heavy breathing filled the room. Luma leaned against the wall, sweating. They're not the only ones. More are coming. I feel it. Jace checked the motion scanner. You're right. A full dropship is landing just outside. We've got minutes, maybe less. He moved to the emergency comms unit and opened a private encrypted channel. What are you doing? Yari asked. Calling someone, Jace said. A contact. If he still owes me, he might send help. The twins looked at each other nervously. Someone you trust? Not really, Jace admitted. But he hates the Dominion even more then. I do, the call connected. A gruff voice answered. Didn't think I'd ever hear from you again, Roland. Didn't think I'd call. But I've got something big. Dominion's trying to erase 2 survivors. Zyrari twins. There was silence on the line. Then the voice said, You're serious? As a bullet to the brain. Where are you? Jace gave the coordinates. I'll send a retrieval ship. 15 minutes. Hold until then. The line went dead. Jace turned to the twins. We've got a chance, but only if we hold them off. Yari's expression turned hard. We're not afraid anymore. Outside, the ground trembled. The sound of a large ship landing shook the walls. Dominion troops began to shout orders through speakers. This is Dominion Enforcement Unit, a voice boomed. Surrender the bio-subjects now and you will be spared. Jace snorted. Lying already. Luma stood tall beside him. What do we do? Jace looked at both girls. We show them what happens when you corner the wrong human. He grabbed a small device from the wall, an EMP pulse mine, then handed each twin a small flash charge. We fight smart. Hit hard. Fall back if we must. Help is coming. Outside, Dominion soldiers began moving in. More than a dozen. Yari's hands lit up again, brighter this time. Luma closed her eyes and whispered in their strange language. The door burst open again. Jace didn't wait. He threw the EMP. A sharp pulse exploded through the air. Dominion armor flickered. Weapons glitched. The twins moved together like shadows. Yari bent light, creating illusions of herself around the soldiers. Luma sent out pulses that knocked weapons from their hands. Jace moved through the chaos, picking targets, shooting clean. For a few minutes, the Dominion squad lost control. Their formation broke. 2 were down. 3 more scrambled to retreat, but more came. The next wave carried shock rifles and stun nets. One soldier fired at Luma. The net wrapped around her and sent a jolt through her body. She screamed and collapsed. Yar shouted and rushed to her sister, dropping her guard. Another stun blast struck her side and she hit the floor, gasping. Nitrogen monoxide, Jace roared. He rushed forward and fired blindly. 1 Dominion soldier dropped. Then another, but there were too many. He threw down his rifle and reached for a smoke bomb. And then outside a roaring engine. A sleek, dark ship dropped from the sky above the cliffs, guns already blazing. Jace's contact had arrived. Turrets opened fire. Dominion troops scrambled for cover. The dropship fired again, this time hitting the ground hard and kicking up debris. Voice came over Jace's comms. Your ride's here, Roland. Bring the girls. Fast. Jace lifted Luma, then Yari. They were breathing, but barely. He ran toward the open loading ramp of the ship, smoke all around them. Blaster shots rang out. One grazed his leg, but he didn't stop. He jumped into the ship as it lifted off. The door sealed shut. Below them, the Dominion forces vanished into the dust. Jace dropped to his knees, holding the twins close. Yari opened her eyes just slightly. You stayed, she whispered. Of course I did, he said. I don't leave people behind. Not anymore. Asterisk, the hum of the ship's engines echoed softly through the steel walls. Jace sat on the floor of the medbay, his back against the wall, one hand wrapped around a bandage on his leg. Across from him, Yari and Luma lay on the recovery beds, their bodies still weak but stable. A medic drone floated beside them, scanning and healing. The air smelled like burned circuits and antiseptic. A door opened. Heavy boots stepped inside. Jace looked up and saw a man with a long coat, gray hair, and a mechanical eye. His name was Revan Kala, smuggler, ex-mercenary, and one of the last people Jace ever wanted to owe a favor. Revan stared at the twins. "So," he said, "these are the ones the Dominion's so desperate to erase?" "They're not a threat," Jace said. "They're just trying to survive." Riven's gaze stayed cold. "Maybe, but I've seen people wiped out for less." Jace stood up slowly. "I didn't ask you to judge them, just to get us out." Raven walked closer. "You have no idea what you're holding, do you?" Jace frowned. "They said they were made during the war, used, then abandoned." Raven shook his head. "It's more than that. I intercepted Dominion chatter. They called them Project Seraphim. You know what that is?" Jace's face tightened. "No. It was top secret. A failed attempt to create peacekeepers that could control machines and energy-living interfaces. Not just weapons leaders. They weren't made for battle. They were made to rule." Jace looked at the twins in disbelief. "They're just girls." "No," Riven said. "They're what comes after." Yari stirred on the bed, eyes fluttering open. "We didn't ask to be made," she said softly. "They gave us life, then tried to take it back." Riven looked at her, then sighed. "Well, kid, the universe doesn't care what you ask for." Luma opened her eyes too, weaker than her sister. "Are we safe?" Jay stepped forward. "For now." "No," Riven corrected him. "You're running. You're not safe. There's a difference." Jace ignored him and looked at the twins. "What do they want with you now?" Yari swallowed hard. "They want control. If they can rebuild what we are, they can make more. New generation of mind weavers. They'll command entire fleets with just thought. No soldiers, just silence and obedience." Luma whispered, "They need us to unlock the system again. Without us, the design is incomplete." Jay stepped back, stunned. "They're trying to restart the project." Raven crossed his arms. "And you brought them onto my ship." "You owe me," Jace growled. Raven didn't argue. Yari sat up slowly. "You said they'll chase us. Even across the stars?" "Yes," Raven said. "You're the key to something too big to bury. They'll never stop." A silence settled in the room. Then Jace asked, "Can you fight back?" Yari and Luma looked at each other. "If we reach the main relay station," Yari said, "we can. Send a signal. Not just to warn others. We can overwrite the entire Dominion database connected to Project Seraphim." Luma added, "We can erase the project. The codes, the files, everything. But it's deep inside Dominion territory." Yari said, "Heavily protected." Raven scoffed. "That's suicide." Jace nodded slowly. "Then we better do it right the first time." He looked at Raven. "You still got contacts in Dominion space?" "A few," Raven said carefully. "But they'll want something in return." "Then tell them this," Jace said. "They help us. They don't just get revenge. They get freedom from Dominion mind control forever." Raven stared at him and laughed once. "You're crazy." "Probably," Jace said. "But I'm not leaving them to die. Not after what they've been through." The ship's lights flickered briefly. A proximity alert flashed red on the wall panel. Raven rushed to the console and checked the radar. "We've been scanned." "Already?" Jace asked. "Someone followed the signal from the cliff." "Fast movers," Dominion code. Yari stood up, shaky but determined. Then we don't run. Luma stood beside her, holding her sister's hand. We end it. Riven looked at the three of them, two alien girls glowing with strange power, and one human who had risked everything for them. He grinned. Well then, he said, turning back to the controls, let's go pick a fight. The ship cut through the stars like a shadow. Silent, fast, deadly. Jay stood near the front window, watching the glow of Dominion space approach. Ahead was a planet-sized structure floating near a dying star, the Dominion's core relay station. It wasn't just a data hub. It was the brain behind Project Seraphim, buried in endless firewalls and guarded by fleets. Inside that station was everything the twins had ever feared. Every file, every secret, every plan to rebuild what had destroyed their kind, and they were going to destroy it. Riven's voice came through the intercom. 1 minute to drop zone. Once we're close enough, I'll cloak the ship, but that won't last long. Jace turned to the twins. They had changed since that first night on Veltrax 9. Their eyes were brighter, their voices stronger. They no longer looked like victims. They looked like warriors. You ready? He asked. I nodded. We were born for this. Luma added. Softly, but we're doing it on our terms now. They suited up light armor, nothing too heavy. The twins didn't need much. Their power was already inside them. As the ship neared the docking tube, Riven's voice came again. I can't stay long. As soon as you're in, I'm ghosting. If you don't come back in 30 minutes, then leave, Jace said. Don't die for us. Riven was silent, then replied, Good luck, Roland. The hatch hissed open. Jace and the twins slipped into the dark corridor of the relay station. No alarms yet. The internal sensors had been tricked thanks to Luma's interference. But it wouldn't last long. They moved quickly through the lower decks. Dominion tech buzzed in the walls. The lights above flickered strangely as Yari walked past them. The control room's this way, she said. As they entered the heart of the station, the lights snapped on and a dozen Dominion guards surrounded them. Weapons drawn. End of the line. One of them barked. You're not going anywhere. Jace didn't move. Neither did the twins. Yari raised her hand. You don't have to fight. The soldier raised his rifle. We don't take orders from. Then he froze. The others did too, one by one. There. Weapons shorted out. Their eyes glazed. They stood still, confused. Luma stepped forward, her voice soft but powerful. We don't want to hurt you. Walk away. And they did. Without a word, the guards turned and left, dropping their rifles as they walked. Jace stared in disbelief. You just stop them? Yari's hands glowed. We learned to stop running. That means facing what we were built for. They reached the control core, a giant chamber filled with spinning data columns and glowing servers. Jace plugged in a device Riven had given him. Once the upload starts, there's no stopping it, Jace warned. You sure about this? Yari looked at Luma, then nodded. We're sure. They placed their hands on the central console. Energy surged. The room filled with light. The machine trembled as their minds connected with the system. Files opened. Codes cracked. Passwords collapsed like sand. Outside the station, Dominion ships began to turn. Systems across the galaxy went dark. Every secret file, every classified blueprint, every trace of Project Seraphim was being wiped. Almost there, Yari said. Sweat running down her face. Suddenly, a voice boomed through the station. You think this will stop us? It was the Dominion High Commander. His face appeared on the walls, old, cruel, full of rage. You are weapons, nothing more. We made you. We own you. No, Luma whispered. We are not yours, the commander laughed. Then die with your pet human. Jace stepped in front of the twins, weapon drawn. "Try me." The commander's face twisted and alarms began to blare. The station's self-destruct activated. A red countdown appeared on the walls. "You won't take our secrets," the voice said. "You'll all burn." The twins looked at Jace. "There's no time to run," Yari said. Luma nodded. "We'll stay." "What?" Jace shouted. "No." "You're coming with me." Yari touched his hand. "You gave us a chance. You saw us as people. No one else ever did." "But we'll survive in the system," Luma said softly. "One last time together. We'll finish what they started and turn it into something good." Their eyes began to glow brighter than ever. Light pulsed around them. Jace stepped back as their bodies began to dissolve, not in death, but in energy. They were merging with the station. With one last smile, Yari whispered, "Thank you, Jace." And then they were gone. The lights faded. The countdown vanished. Outside the Dominion fleet went dark. Every ship, every AI, every control system connected to Project Seraphim collapsed. The station trembled. Raven's voice came through Jace's comm. "I don't know what you just did, but they're blind out here. You need extraction?" Jace stood in the quiet control room, alone. "No," he said softly. "I'll find my own way." He walked out slowly, past empty halls, past silent guards, toward the docking port. Behind him, the lights of the station flickered one last time. Somewhere in the Fae system, maybe in every system, the twins lived on, not as weapons, not as ghosts, but as free souls in the stars.